You've been living in a cycle that pretends to comfort you but quietly robs you. It takes your fire, your confidence, your emotional depth, and gives you emptiness in return. But deep down, you know you're meant for more. You feel it in the quiet moments when the screen fades and all you're left with is silence. That ache in your chest isn't guilt. It's your soul asking for something real, something deeper, something alive. You don't need to punish yourself. You just need to choose yourself, the real you, the version of you that looks in the mirror and sees strength, clarity, and purpose, not regret. It starts with one choice, one decision to stop numbing and start living. You are not weak, you are not broken, you are powerful, and it's time to remember that. Take your power back. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Let's be brutally honest here. Masturbation is not just about sex. It's about what happens in the silence, when no one's looking. When you feel unwanted, bored, anxious, or just empty, it becomes an escape, a ritual, a quick dopamine fix. And the worst part? It trains you to choose fantasy over connection. Do you even realize what you're losing? Every single time you press play on that screen, every time you scroll looking for the perfect video, you're rewiring your brain to desire pixels over people, pleasure without presence, touch without tension, orgasm without meaning. You are sedating your masculinity, numbing your confidence, weakening your sexual energy. The same energy that was meant to fuel ambition, purpose, power. You think you're relieving pressure, but you're actually draining your drive. And no, this isn't about shame. It's about truth. Because let's talk about what they don't teach you in school, that the habit you've normalized might be the very thing killing your motivation, your self-control, and your emotional depth. That instant pleasure becomes a prison, that the more you self-serve, the less you feel the need to improve, to connect, to become someone worth desiring. And here's what's even scarier. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real intimacy and fake stimulation. The more you indulge, the more numb you become to authentic attraction. Real women, real energy, real passion. Gone, replaced by a screen. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked into someone's eyes and felt electric desire without even touching them? When was the last time a kiss melted your whole body without needing anything more? That's the power of real sexual connection. But the more you chase quick fixes, the more you lose the ability to experience it. You are starving your soul for a body that doesn't even exist. You think it's harmless. You tell yourself it's normal. It's just a release. It's my body. Nobody's getting hurt. That's the script most people run in their heads when they don't want to confront something deeper. It sounds rational. It sounds harmless. And on the surface, maybe it is. But beneath the surface, something darker is happening. And most people don't even know it. Every time you reach for that quick fix, you're telling your mind that it doesn't need connection. It only needs stimulation. And slowly, almost silently, that shift rewires you. You begin to crave isolation over intimacy. You begin to settle for pixels over people. And the longer it continues, the harder it becomes to connect on a real, raw, human level. You convince yourself that it's an act of self-love. You call it self-exploration. But when it becomes routine, when it becomes something you can't go a few days without, it's no longer discovery, it's dependency. And dependency on anything comes at a cost. What you don't realize is that this habit is teaching your brain that pleasure is separate from effort. that you can have the climax without the connection, that you can have the release without the risk. But real relationships don't work like that. Real intimacy doesn't work like that. It's messy. It requires vulnerability. It demands presence. And when you've trained your mind to get the reward without the process, you become emotionally lazy. You start avoiding real intimacy because real intimacy requires something you no longer practice: presence, patience, pursuit. You start creating fantasies that no real woman can compete with. You scroll for the perfect scenario, the perfect video, the perfect moment, and in doing so, you build a library of unrealistic expectations in your mind. Then you wonder why you feel numb when you're with someone, why you're disconnected during sex, why nothing excites you the way it used to. It's because your brain has been hijacked, flooded with dopamine over and over, without context, without effort, without emotional substance. And now real connection feels underwhelming, unstimulating, boring. There's also a deeper layer that no one talks about. What does it mean when you can't go a few days without this release? What are you escaping? What are you covering up? Because often the act is just a symptom of loneliness, of stress, of fear, of boredom, of not feeling enough. You don't just touch your body, you're trying to silence your mind. You're trying to feel something when everything else feels hollow. That's the part that should scare you. Because if you keep avoiding those emotions by numbing them with pleasure, they don't disappear. They grow, they fester, they evolve into shame, insecurity, and confusion. You start feeling like something's wrong with you, even if you can't name it. And every time you try to stop and fail, that guilt grows louder. But no one sees this part. No one talks about it because it's uncomfortable. It's easier to joke about it, to normalize it, to call it just being human. And while being human does mean craving pleasure, it also means we have the capacity to choose, to evolve, to understand what serves us and what silently sabotages us. Most men don't realize how powerful their sexual energy is. It's not just about release, it's creative energy, it's life force, it's drive. And when you waste it daily on meaningless moments, you lose something deeper than just discipline. You lose momentum, you lose edge, you lose that magnetic force that pulls people toward you. You walk into a room and people feel nothing because you've spent your vitality behind closed doors, draining yourself for seconds of pleasure that leave you emptier each time. Let's be brutally honest here. Masturbation is not just about sex. It's about what happens in the silence, in the moments when the world feels too heavy or too hollow, when no one's looking and your thoughts are too loud, too scattered, too restless to sit with. In those moments, you reach for something familiar, a quick hit, a predictable routine that gives you 10 seconds of escape from everything you don't want to confront. The problem isn't just the act. The problem is what the act replaces. Real intimacy, real emotional connection, real vulnerability. When you give your mind permission to run to self-stimulation every time you feel discomfort, you stop developing the emotional muscle it takes to truly connect, to feel, to stay. You are teaching your brain to retreat from real experiences and settle for controlled ones. No rejection, no tension, no build-up, just a button, a screen, a moment, and silence. But that silence doesn't give peace. It gives pause, a temporary hold on everything you refuse to deal with. And each time you go back, your tolerance builds, not just physically, but emotionally. What used to turn you on now barely moves you. You need more intensity, more novelty, more extremes. That's not desire, that's addiction. And the most dangerous kind of addiction is the one that pretends to be harmless. This isn't about judgment, this is about awareness. About waking up to the reality that pleasure without presence is empty, that climax without connection is counterfeit. You think you're taking control of your body, but the truth is, you're losing control of your mind. Your attention span shrinks. Your ability to stay present in a moment with someone deteriorates. You start comparing reality to fantasy and wonder why your relationships feel dull. You've been programming yourself to be emotionally unavailable. You can't feel deeply because you've practiced shallow satisfaction. You can't stay grounded with someone because you've rehearsed instant escape. Every touch you give yourself without intention or awareness chips away at your sexual intelligence, the kind of intelligence that knows how to read a woman's energy, the kind that knows when to hold space and when to build tension, the kind that understands how to connect through more than just physicality. When all you practice is getting yourself off, you forget how to give. You forget how to receive in real time. You forget how to connect, because connection requires patience, and you've trained yourself to seek speed. It's like trying to run a marathon when all you've ever done is sprint 5 meters at a time in your room. There's a version of you that you haven't met yet. He doesn't rely on stimulation to feel powerful. He doesn't need a screen to feel alive. He walks with grounded energy. He speaks with calm certainty. He connects with clarity. His presence alone turns heads, not because he's loud, not because he's flashy, but because he's whole. And that version of you is buried underneath the numbness, the habit, the secrecy. You keep feeding your loneliness and calling it release, but your body knows the difference. Your spirit knows the difference. That dull feeling that hits you after the act, that's not guilt, that's grief. A quiet mourning for the man you know you could be if only you'd stop settling for short-term pleasure over long-term power. There's a reason your energy feels low, even when you've done nothing all day. There's a reason your motivation crashes after each session. You are robbing yourself of life force. That energy was never meant to be spent alone, night after night, in a cycle that leaves you drained and disconnected. It was meant to drive creation. It was meant to fuel your focus, amplify your ambition, and connect you to others in ways that build, not just break you apart for a moment. Do you even realize what you're losing? Every single time you press play, every time you scroll for the perfect video, you're not just seeking pleasure, you're sacrificing presence. You're giving up parts of yourself that were never meant to be traded for temporary highs. You don't see it at first. You feel a quick rush, a quick release, then you move on like nothing happened. But slowly, you start noticing the change. You don't look people in the eyes the same way anymore. You don't feel that fire in real interactions. The excitement that once came from flirting, from tension, from deep emotional moments, it starts to feel flat. You've conditioned your body to expect immediate gratification without having to do anything for it. No emotional risk, no vulnerability, no connection. Just you, your phone, and a moment that fades faster than it came. Your body gets what it wants, but your soul is starving. Your energy is lower. Your motivation feels like it has a weight tied to it. You wonder why you can't focus, why everything feels just a little bit duller. It's because you're spending your creative energy on something that gives nothing back. You're releasing energy that was never meant to be wasted like that. Sexual energy isn't just about sex. It's your drive, your focus, your confidence, your ability to create. Every time you choose to numb yourself with that kind of pleasure, you're giving up the very fuel you need to build the life you say you want. And here's the part that really hurts. When you finally meet someone worth connecting with, someone who actually stirs something real in you, you find it hard to stay present. Your mind drifts. Your body doesn't respond the same. That raw desire you thought you had, it's been diluted, spread too thin across too many meaningless moments. You've practiced being alone so many times that now, when you have a real chance to be with someone, you don't even know how to show up fully. You hesitate, you disconnect, you feel shame, not from being with them, but from knowing deep down that you've lost something sacred. And this cycle, this loop, it gets deeper with time, because once the high wears off, the low creeps in. You start feeling guilty, not just for what you did, but for how easily you keep doing it. You tell yourself you'll stop, you promise to cut back, but then that moment comes, the quiet, the boredom, the stress, and you fall back in. Not because you need pleasure, but because you've forgotten how to face life without numbing yourself. It becomes your comfort, your secret ritual, the place you go when everything else feels too loud or too real. But what if you could take that power back? What if that energy you waste could be channeled into something that actually builds you? A new project, a deeper connection, a stronger, more grounded version of yourself. The man who doesn't hide behind a screen, the man who looks people in the eyes with calm intensity because he knows who he is. The man who doesn't chase quick highs because he's busy building something worth waking up for. You've got that version of you inside. He's just buried under years of conditioning, years of repetition. But he's still there, waiting for you to say no more, waiting for you to realize that your desires aren't wrong. They've just been misused. They've been spent on illusions instead of invested into growth. You don't need to be ashamed of what you've done. You just need to see it clearly for what it is. A distraction, a trap, a habit that has stolen more from you than you even know. And now that you do know, the choice is no longer unconscious. It's yours. You are sedating your masculinity. You are dulling the sharp edge that makes you magnetic, focused, and dangerous in the best way possible. That thing inside you, the fire, the hunger, the drive, it was never meant to be tamed by artificial pleasure. It was meant to be used, expressed, and challenged. Every time you give in to that urge, especially when you know you're not even turned on by anything real, you're training your mind to settle, to accept less, to reward you for doing nothing. It might feel like control, but it's not. It's avoidance. It's a silent agreement between your brain and your fear that says, let's not grow, let's just feel good. And that's the real danger. You're not just numbing yourself to sex, you're numbing yourself to everything that requires effort and patience. You wonder why it's harder to focus on your goals, why you procrastinate, why you no longer feel fired up to chase what you once dreamed of. It's because you've depleted the very energy that drives all those things. This isn't just about biology. This is spiritual. You are meant to be a man who leads, with strength, with groundedness, with purpose. But when your energy leaks out into meaningless moments behind closed doors, you walk into the world with less presence, less intensity, less clarity. You look in the mirror and feel off, even if you don't know why. Your body was never supposed to be your enemy. Your desires aren't wrong, but when you misuse them, you become enslaved by them. You become the kind of man who hides behind pleasure because he's too afraid to confront the pain. Pain from rejection, pain from being alone, pain from not feeling like enough. But guess what? No amount of pleasure will heal pain. No amount of climax will give you self-worth. And the more you chase it, the further you get from the power you're truly looking for. Power doesn't come from escape. It comes from self-control. It comes from choosing discomfort over dopamine, discipline over distractions, vision over urges. This is not about becoming perfect. This is about becoming aware. You are not designed to be ruled by habit. You are not built to be passive in your own life. You were made to build, to lead, to love deeply, and all of that requires energy. Sexual, emotional, mental, the very energy you keep spending on a fantasy that leaves you emptier every time. That energy is not gone forever. You can take it back. You can choose to redirect it, to hold it, to master it. Not because someone told you to, but because you know what's at stake. You know what it's costing you. It's costing you your presence in the moment. It's costing you your sensitivity to real connection. It's numbing your ability to experience a woman in her fullness, not just her body, but her energy, her soul, her depth. When you spend your nights with your hand and your phone, you miss out on learning how to read her body language, how to respond to her subtle cues, how to truly make love instead of just having sex. You think you're in control, but you're not. You're reacting to the smallest triggers like a trained animal. You've conditioned yourself to believe that desire equals action. But real men don't act on every desire. They know how to hold it, use it, turn it into something greater. This isn't about shame. It's about reclaiming your potential. You are capable of more. You are meant for deeper connections, higher purpose, and a legacy that outlives temporary pleasure. And that begins with making different choices, not because you have to, but because you finally understand what's waiting for you on the other side of restraint. It's not emptiness, it's power. So the next time you feel the urge, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what am I really craving right now? Is it pleasure or is it connection? Is it release or is it relief? Because once you understand what's beneath the urge, you take back control. You stop being a prisoner of your habits and become a master of your energy. The version of you that's focused, magnetic, and deeply alive. It's not far away. He's already inside you. And the moment you stop choosing fantasy over your future, that's the moment he wakes up.